right, everyone, just bear with me. I am trying to kill two birds with one stone because there we go. Welcome to my podcasters. Another episode of Dysfunctionally Functional. I am also gonna start doing the vlog and the podcast at the same time. So I have my software here, my studio here, and I'm going to be trying to pay attention to y'all here. I don't have to worry about them because they can obviously hear me, and the editing and auto ducting does all of that. So sorry I have had y'all on hold for a while. Doesn't have anything to do with Marilyn Manson. We've been doing a lot of work with promotions and the podcast really taking off and gearing up for the next book. But I am a truck driver. That is where you will be seeing me come from the majority of the time. So I want to dive right in because my food is cooking and I'm starving. I just finished an 11-hour shift. I am tired and this is my time to chillax. So the topic of the day just happens to be a Sunday, is what if God was one of us? So as you all already know, if you follow any of my other channels, social media sources, my book, the chapters and the books themselves are all named after songs. At the end of the 4-part collection, you'll be able to download, there'll be a link for you to download the soundtrack of my life, and you'll also get a ticket to come to one of my symposiums for free and meet and greet with me. And I would love to interact with y'all and listen to not what I've said to inspire you or piss you off, either way, but what tidbits you picked up on that made you have that aha moment. We're going to have a lot of those today, and so I'm going to try to get through them really quick. Before I do these podcasts, I always make sure that I go through my notes and I go through it actually unscripted. All my stuff is unscripted. All of my stuff is unedited. That's just me. I don't have time for a team of people. I don't have time to learn all this technology. I know how to do what I know how to do, and people can deal with it or not. I'm not sitting at home at my actual studio, and I am not going home until December. So here we are. The topic of the day was brought up actually by an incident that happened between my brother and I. My brother has struggled with drug addiction since he was 14. For those of you who have read my book, you'll already know our father stuck a needle in his arm when he was 14 years old and said it was time for him to be a man. Now, is it my dad's fault that my brother has been an addict all these years? No, but addiction is an illness, and as a clinician by trade, you know, I don't have an imagination. I wasn't able to be a child. I come from a family of organized crime, and my brother and I also have a younger sister and brother, but they weren't raised the way my brother and I were. We were the first two born, so we were like set on pedestals. Once my dad did that to my brother, he kind of knocked him off his throne, and he's been he's been struggling through life ever since. So he was homeless. I went and worked with the Lake Charles Police Department to bring him home to my house with my family. I'm the only sibling that has been married, has kids, and all of that fun stuff. And I made sure that my kids did not grow up around a lot of my family because I didn't want them to experience the shit that I did. and now have all this content to write books about and have podcasts about. But being a survivor of all of the different things that I'm going to talk to y'all about now on a weekly basis, I talked to my brother earlier from the mental hospital. We don't need to get into why he's there. I'm just glad that he got the help. All I can say is I got tired of being physically attacked and blamed for things that were not my fault. And it was very clear to me that not only did my brother suffer from PTSD as I do, but he wasn't around whenever our father passed away, because he passed away in my house, and my son at the time was 12 years old. He found him, and it was very sudden, unexpected, details not needed, but it wreaked havoc on all of us. But because my dad and my brother had this hate relationship, my brother always just wanted to be loved. And I thank God that he is getting the help that he needs. And this topic was brought up today during our visitation via phone. And it was so grand that even the people in the facility wanted to hear what I was saying. So, without further ado, I'm about to get really twisted with y'all. Now, these are my personal opinions. It has always been my goal to question people who think inside the box. I am not a conventional person. I wasn't raised to be a conventional person, and I didn't get the title Mouth of the South for no reason. I question everything. I didn't get to be a child, so I don't have an imagination. That's actual and literal facts. Everything with me is black and white. The only thing gray up in here is my brain matter. I've studied medicine since I was 6, continue to study medicine, specifically psychology and psychosis. I like to know what makes people tick, what makes them do what they do. And as somebody who suffers from mental health disorders, which, sidebar, if you don't believe that 100% of people in the world deal with some form of mental illness or another at some point in their life, you are sorely mistaken, and you're probably one of the biggest sufferers of all time, because you dwell in a world of denial. Let's just get that out of the way. I like to push the boundaries because my boundaries were pushed, especially after finding my dad in my home, the way that he was found. That really did a lot. So, on with the story. My brother was saying that he has this ritual that he does, even when he was at the house and I was off. I was injured at work, which is why I've been gone for a little while. But he goes outside in the morning and he is prompted by something to do these, kind of Tai Chi movements with his hands, and it only makes sense to him. And he prays and he meditates and he listens to the birds, and he just kind of is grounding himself. I taught him how to ground and try to release a lot of that negative energy. He does struggle with night terrors and night tremors, and this is a kid who has lived a really rough fucking life. So today he was like, man, I really feel like I could have used church. And I said, why is it that you feel that you could use church? And he said, well, there's something about walking into a church that makes me feel overwhelmed with a feeling that I don't get anywhere else. He said, it's kind of like a drug and a high that I've never taken or experienced before. and it makes him emotional, which is so beyond our characters, both of us. We don't get emotional about things. When I tell my kids I love them, I know that I love them, but I don't have a feeling attached to that word because I'm still healing. So we're having a discussion, and I said, look, I actually went to school and studied religion because I struggled with it for so many years of my life. From the time I was 4 years old, I could see and hear things and voices that other people couldn't. And it wasn't like they were in my head. It wasn't like an imaginary friend. They were messages that I needed to give to people, and they were very specific. And so when I explained this to my birth vessel, aka my mother, you'll never hear me refer to her as that. She's my birth vessel. Her first response was to tell my dad that I was insane and I was hearing voices, and it scared the shit out of her. She was afraid I was gonna kill her, which she should have been because she's fucking insane. But anyways, I would never hurt anyone on purpose. If you fuck with my family, we're gonna have some problems. But with my grandmother, my dad's mom, I was raised in church. I think that she always wanted us to have the foundation that she knew that her son and his dimwit wife couldn't offer us. My dad was an outlaw. My dad was a gangster. He was in and out of prison. He used my brother and I as pawns. We had bounties over our heads most of our lives and had no idea. We didn't know that breaking cocaine and bagging and de-seeding weed, we didn't know that was a bad thing because we didn't know other people. We weren't allowed to be around other people because of the enterprise that my dad was involved in. So again, no cartoons, no toys. We didn't live that kind of life. I didn't even know other little people. When I say little people, I mean like 5-year-olds existed until the cops came and knocked on the door one day and asked my parents why I wasn't in school. They tried to play the homeschool thing. Cameron, Louisiana was like, no, this child needs to go to actual school. When I walked into that building, I was like, holy fucking shit, there's other people like me. But of course, I was always given the warning before leaving the house. When I came home, I got grilled about questions. You know, the DARE program was a thing, and it was just a very solitude childhood. I'll leave it at that. So, why did I entitle this, What If God Was One of Us? Because that is the question I asked my brother today. Not what would Jesus do, but what if God was one of us? So I have studied religion in college. I have studied theology. I'm not a theologist, just to get that clear. But I struggled with religion versus spirituality. And here is where we're going to dig right in. So, my brother said that he felt uncomfortable doing his morning ritual at the mental facility where he's at because he felt that people would be judging him. And I said, well, first and foremost, we're Torreses. We don't give a fuck what anybody has to say about anything about our families or anything like that. Like 98% of our family has died off by the age, I'm in my 40s now. 97% of my family was gone by the age of 37. There is a huge curse on our family, and it's always been a dream of mine to kind of break that cycle. Now, we have a sister who is like so up church's ass that she even quit her job in the medical field where she was making 30 something dollars an hour to go work at the church with children. She has no children and doesn't really know how to interact with people, much less children. So I'm not really sure what's going on there, but my brother and I have always stayed really close. But for religious stuff, he kind of goes to our sister Alicia, and she winds up making him feel like shit. This bitch has actually come to my house to visit my children on Christmas and asked that I not be there, and then proceeds to give my kids socks. My kids are 17 and 14, by the way, and cries with them, and all she wants to do is pray with them, because she literally told them that she fears for their souls. Now, I had my kids baptized because that's what I was raised to do, but this bitch fears for their souls burning eternally in hell because of who their mother is. I'm gonna let that pill swallow for a minute. Now, this is the leader of Children's Church. She's also been a leader of other youth. And I asked the question, what Bible is she reading? Because I have actually studied a lot of different versions of the Bible, and I look for answers as to why I have always had the abilities that I have. Why do I get these messages? Why am I able to help people that are complete strangers that I know nothing about? Why am I able to pick up a photograph of someone and tell you their past, present, and future, whether they're dead or alive? Why do I have these abilities? Because I was raised and taught that people with these kinds of abilities, they're obviously devil worshippers. And I was like, okay, but while I do believe in the devil, because I do believe that you can't have good without bad and vice versa, I don't worship the devil. So like, why? I never could find my footing when it came to this topic. So I'm talking with my brother, and here's how I explained it to him. Church is just another building. You may as well be at Pizza Hut or at Walmart or at home or at a strip club. Yeah, I said it. A building is just that. It's a building. But the Bible, in all 5,223 versions that there are, the Bible has one consistency. It says, where two or more gather and call upon my name, I too shall be there. It didn't say at the nearest tabernacle of this religion with this pastor and his wife and their family. It didn't say all that. You don't have to have a middleman to speak to God. Now, going back to if God was one of us, one thing that you need to be able to fathom is God has never been any more than an entity. He's never taken on a human form. He's not an alien as far as we know. He is, to some, a big ball of light. He is elemental. He is just omnious. He is a spirit. He is a deity that has never taken a form. Now, his son, Jesus Christ, definitely was a human, and there are ancestors of his walking around this earth today that date back to his bloodline and are his ancestors. So when you think of God and you feel bad about your sins, as my brother does, you know, we've all done bad things. Let's get that out of the way. If you think that you're perfect, you may as well sign the fuck off now, because I'm about to wreck your fucking world. Jesus carried all the sins of the world to heaven with him. If you believe that, then you have to believe that no sin is greater than or less than any other. Everybody, grab your headphones and your bottle of wine, because I'm fixing to take you to fucking church. I'm going to repeat it again. The Bible says Jesus carried all the sins of the world when he ascended into heaven. Therefore, being the scientist that I am, I have to believe, and I do believe, that all sinners go to heaven. Not just by that Bible verse alone, but on the mere fact that all human beings are sinners. I don't believe if you commit suicide, you're going to the depths of hell. Suicide is a sin. It is talked about in the Bible. But again, Jesus carried all the sins of the world. So did he just take petty thieves and robbers? No. Did he just take prostitutes and drug abusers? No. He took the pedophiles, the baby rapers, the baby killers, the psychotic moms, the drug addicts, the serial killers. The list goes on and on. In the eyes of God, his son gave his life so that all sinners could be saved. He didn't say you had to go down to the River Jordan and look for John the Baptist and be baptized and live a perfect life in order to go to heaven. The Bible doesn't say that at all. He did not say that once you come up from the water after being baptized, that you have to go out and spread the gospel like a pyramid scheme. And if you start your own church and your own entity, that you need to take up 10% of every struggling family and every rich family's financial income. The Bible doesn't say that. The Bible talks about tithing in the form of volunteering, because back in the day when the Bible was written by many men, I'll get to that in a minute, it never said that they were rich or they were poor. It was the olden days. People were still laborers. People were still peasants. They were under, during the time of Jesus, they were under the thumb of the king at that time, and nobody could cross Caesar and blah, blah, blah. Everybody was terrified of this dude. Even though this other dude named Jesus Christ came out of a perfectly put together virgin. Yeah, Joseph was pretty pissed off about that, but he trusted his wife. So he came back and he was like, okay, Jesus, what are you here for? And I'm summarizing, obviously, putting it in modern terms. Jesus, what are you here for? My Father sent me here to save the people. When it is my time to go, I will go, but it's not my time yet. And then he performed a lot of what we would call magic tricks, right? He's turning water into wine. He's bringing the dead back to life. He's doing a whole bunch of shit that no one else had ever seen or heard of. The only thing that they used for entertainment back then was they had jesters, but they didn't do magic tricks like this guy was doing. So he's on everybody's radar all of a sudden. Then all of a sudden we cut to Calpurnius, and next Jesus is being crucified because he announces himself as the Messiah, and that was a big no-no. And bam, Jesus is crucified. Now, they wrap him in the linen cloth and they put him in the cave and they roll the stone. And 3 days later, they go back and they roll the stone away. But unlike his best friend Lazarus, Jesus doesn't come walking out of there. His linen are laying there on the ground and he is nowhere to be seen. Not one person in the Bible has ever been noted as actually seeing Jesus ascend into heaven. It is just one of those things that we understandably all assume because it was God's way. But who's to say what God's way is or isn't if he can't actually talk to us? Now, I get to the point of the Bible with my brother because my brother and I, well, even our crazy father, we've always delved deep into Christianity. We were raised United Pentecostals, so let me tell you a little about that if you don't know what United Pentecostals are. We didn't believe in the long hair and wearing the weird pilgrim clothes, but we do speak in tongues, get filled with the Spirit. We get compelled to run around and dance. Some people shake and fall on the floor. We're in one of those really loud churches where people speak in tongues and then somebody else across the room or in another building interprets what that person is saying. Now that's the part I've always had a problem with, because to date, we know that Jesus Christ, the human form, spoke a language called Aramaic. Back then, he was the only dude speaking this language. Nobody understood what he was saying. They could feel what he was saying, and they knew that there was something ominous about him, and they wanted to follow him. But the Bible is written by humans who did not speak the language of Christ. So in my opinion, while there are many lessons to be learned in whatever version of the Bible you make, because the Bible, cut short, has become very capitalist. Just from March 2020 to March 2021, 67 new versions of the Bible have come out by random ass people who probably just lost their job. They may or may not be religious, but they know if they write a different version of the Bible and put Holy Bible on it, bam, instant celebrity. That shit's gonna sell. Because Christians cling to new versions of the Bible. Why should there ever have been more than one version? And even then, let's talk about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. 4 of Jesus's disciples all went on the same journey with him, and all have 4 different stories, so much so their 4 different stories make up the first 4 books in the New Testament. Then the King James Version comes out. I don't know who made King James an authority on all things heavenly, God, Jesus, and hell, but now there's like 512 versions of King James's version. So the Bible is really a big ass game of telephone that has gotten really murky over the years. And as I explain this to my brother, I tell him, you don't have to be ashamed of being a sinner. We're all sinners. We're all gonna die sinners. Suicide is a sin, so no, I don't believe that people who commit suicide go to hell. And quite frankly, I have read the Bible front to back to front, twice, completely engulfed myself in the study of different biblical authors when I was in school studying various religions. Christianity was not the first religion. Okay, do you think that the Egyptians gave 2 shits about Christ? No, they were doing their own thing. All religions. I actually have a tattoo. It's going to show up upside down up here, but I can't turn my arm around. But it's a pentagram, yes. And inside the pentagram, it says, all gods are one God. It doesn't matter what God is to you, as long as you believe that there is some kind of higher power. Whatever that is to you. If you're Jewish, if you are Muslim, whatever the case may be. In my book, there's only one God. And that God is whoever he or she may be to you. One thing that we should all be able to agree on is that God is a deity, never taken on a human form. And my brother is like, holy shit, like, why don't people in church talk about this? I said, because it goes against everything that they have marketed church to be. The Bible has become part of capitalism. And so now you go to church and you get this socialized version of that capitalism in the form of a watered down version of whatever sermon the preacher wants to give on that day. And it's really fucking sad because there's a lot of lost, uneducated, ill-informed, and ignorant teenagers that are just looking for their place in this world. My brother has always fallen into that category, and I did for a very long time. I was told that because I have the abilities that I have, that I wasn't allowed in church. And when my sister told my kids that she feared that they were going to burn in hell for the rest of their lives in the afterlife, and she prays for their souls, she's saying that because she still thinks that I'm this pagan dancing around, you know, the full moon in a cloak and dagger, and I don't fucking know what she thinks, honestly. Don't care either. But to go to your nieces and your nephew and tell them some shit like that, does that sound like a bitch who needs to be working at church? No. My first question was, is she gone yet? Because I'm coming home, and if she's not gone, I'm going to beat her ass all the way back to church. Like, hypocrisy at its fucking finest, to say the least. But that's the problem with organized religion. And so I'm going to ask some really hard questions. How many people actually go to church because they feel that they have to? How many people go to a church and get mixed up in the drama that ensues in the church. You just sit at home with the kids all week, and Sunday is your day to get out and go be ritualistic, do your communion. And yes, it is a ritual. I'll get to that in a minute. And really, you're just worried about what Susie Q and Mary Jo are doing over there, and how the fuck is she wearing that shit, and oh my God, I saw her at the hair salon. I've been to church in and out all my life. I've been there, done that, seen it, and I have a closer relationship with God without church, without all the hypocrisy, without all of the man-made versions of the stories in the Bible, when I could just go to the source. I've been filled with the Spirit right here on this truck. That's how close I am with God. And you say, oh, but how could you be so close with God? You live such a fucked up life, and you cuss like a sailor, and covered in tattoos. You had your first baby out of wedlock, blah, blah, fucking blah. Do you know how? Because God loves everyone. He created everyone in His image. Now, in saying that, my brother's like, well, why do I keep falling down? And it broke my heart that he feels that he's the only one who gets knocked down in life. And he feels awkward about being spiritual when he does this morning ritual that makes him feel really good about himself. So it begs the question, what is religion versus spirituality, or is there a difference between the two? My answer is, there's not a difference. There is a difference in organized religion and feeling that you have to dress a certain way, you have to show up, you have to be nice, you have to look the part, you got to listen to what homie's saying on the stage. That in the Bible is considered following a false fucking prophet. If you put all your eggs in the basket of your pastor, but you don't have a good relationship with God, your creator, that's honoring a false prophet. And this particular church that I'm talking about, the wife absolutely hates me. The pastor's wife hates me. And I think it's because when real meets real and asks the questions that I do, Christians don't like to be backed into corners, especially leaders of a church. But when somebody is quote unquote filled with the Spirit, and I have been filled with the Spirit, I understand my message from God. I do. But why in the fuck would the pastor's wife stand up and tell me something completely fucking different? She doesn't speak Aramaic. She doesn't understand what I'm saying any more than I do. But I know the sense of peace, relief, the love, and the comfort that I feel when I am filled with the Spirit. And that's God's way of telling me, yo girl, I got you. I don't need no pastor or his dumb wife to come and tell me that shit. You do not speak Aramaic. You do not speak tongue unless God allows you to. And only He knows what He is telling you. That's where spirituality comes in. The Bible teaches us to have blind faith. That's really hard because we're humans and shit happens and life happens, and like my brother and many other people in the world, there are setbacks. That's what makes us dysfunctional. We're human. We were born to make mistakes. That's how we learn. A baby isn't shot out of a vagina and gets on the floor and starts doing the Abby McBeal dance and putting on its own diaper one day and pissing in the pot the next. The way our children act and behave is taught behavior. My goal is to break our family's taught behavior, use our negatives, turn them into positives, because I wholeheartedly believe that God did create us in His own image, and every single one of us has a purpose. Not all purposes are made to be easy. If it was, we'd all be sitting at home clipping coupons and getting free, insulin instead of free fucking COVID shots that don't even fucking work. Our government is fucked. And during quarantine, I got a lot of religious questions. People wanting to know how I stay so positive and why do I use the word spiritual instead of the word religion in reference to myself. Here's why. The pentagram, while people think it's a satanic symbol, it's only a satanic symbol if you make it one. Symbols, words, people, phrases, slogans, flags, memes, whatever, only has the power that you give it. Comedians have been living their lives and making money off of making racist, homophobic, political, religious jokes their whole lives. But now in 2020, everybody's got fucking feelings. They're trying to cancel everybody. Cancel culture comes around. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm Generation X. I don't give a fuck about anybody's feelings. Nobody gave a fuck about mine. Why the fuck should I care? Have a sense of fucking humor. I put on Facebook just the other day and I had to write a letter to some board administration to get my account back. Normally they just put me in jail for 2 or 3 days, but then I talk shit back. But what I said in the comment was, my husband tagged me in a comment. Yes, I am still married to a man, and yes, I am still gay. We'll get to that in a minute too. He tagged me in this post about tattoos gone really fucking wrong. And my comment was, laughy face, laughy face, laughy face. Oh my God, these are fucking horrible. I would kill someone if they put that on me, with 3 more laughing face emojis. Well, instantaneously, I'm a murderer. Okay, that's cool. Terroristic threat, they say. Well, I lashed back and said, how about you 20-nothing-year-olds get a fucking sense of humor? Instead of asking Siri to set an alarm for you to remind you when to go fucking check your Bitcoin, ask her to give you a sense of humor. If you got to sit there and listen to her silly jokes about boots and cats until the cows come home, do it. But while you're at it, why don't you go get down some history, go learn about your freedom of speech that you always want to talk about. Why don't we talk about freedom of fucking religion? I'm not saying that every pastor in the world is a piece of shit. I actually have some amazing women pastors that I am phenomenal friends with and have the utmost admiration for. What I'm saying is, you need to think about how much energy and time you're putting into what they are saying versus what the lesson is. They read the same Bible as you, maybe a couple of different more versions than you. If you're my sister, you've read all 5,062 versions and still haven't got past fucking Genesis. But, you know, not everybody's perfect. Everybody's flawed. But if you read the Bible and you understand and you believe that God created everything, then you have to believe in spirituality, because you can't be filled with the quote unquote spirit if there's no such thing as spirituality. And everything around us is what I thrive on. The elements: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. Now, while I was labeling myself a pagan for many, many years, the church actually made me feel like that's where I belonged. And I was in one of the most notorious clans in all of the world, and am still friends with a lot of people in that clan, and I actually kind of miss it. I actually really miss it. One of the members is my son's godson, and the other one is my youngest daughter's godmother. And we were a part of this clan. Our kids grew up in the clan, and yeah, we wore robes. We didn't dance around poles naked. It's some of what you see on TV and some not so much. There are other people out there that do that kind of shit, but that's not. This clan is filled with a lot of high-ranking officials in a lot of different industries. We are talking leaders of this country. There is an elitist group in this country that have a lot of pull and a lot of say. That's facts. I can't speak names. I mean, I never signed the non-disclosure agreement, but that's just not who I am. So, and I'm still friends with a lot of these people. So when you start talking about feeling bad about certain things that you've done, here's mine. My brother asked me, and I get asked a lot on my other channels. So I've reactivated this channel, and I'm going to be coming to y'all once a week. And at the same time, I can get my podcast out and everybody's happy or pissed off. I don't care either way. Last topic. Forgiveness. So, my book comes out. Everybody is really fucking excited. And I'm like, some of y'all should not be really excited. Did I write about them and the experiences that affected me on purpose? Not for their sake or to throw them under the bus, but because it's what really happened to me. My book is written in first person, and I use actual real people's names. I didn't need their permission. I got a legal team to take care of that shit. But it's not slander, it's not defamation of character, and it's not libel if it actually fucking happened. So there was a lot of moving parts and pieces into putting this project together. And now I'm getting ready to write and publish the second book where I talk about my shit. How I'm a shit mom, I go on a 2-year drug binge, I move my family back and forth to the drug dealer's house. The drug dealer, to this day, I talked to him earlier, he became a part of the family. Everybody knows Midget, and I talk about people that I went to school with and just shit. It's all my shit. Do you think that people are going to be coming out of the woodworks to be like, well, really sucks you had to talk about that about yourself? At least I came out okay. Fuck no. People only care about themselves. So I get asked the question a lot, like more often than I care to get asked. So I'm going to address it one more motherfucking time. The main question I get asked is, will I ever forgive my MOTHER? For those of you who read the book or you've listened to any of my podcasts, you know the issues that I have with her, and there's even more to fucking come. But the simple answer is fuck no. I want y'all to understand the same way I just explained to my brother. It is quite fucking okay to never forgive or forget. It is almost humanly impossible to wholeheartedly forgive somebody who has left a scar on your fucking heart, on your brain, wherever, or on your physical body. It is almost fucking impossible because our parathyroid has a little thing called fight or flight. When that person comes into your space, it's going to set off a trigger that you may or may not be aware of. A lot of my brother's triggers are subconscious, and he's figuring those out right now. But like a porcupine, they poof up and they will stab the shit out of you with their little spiky. They're so cute though, right? They're so cute. They don't look like they'd hurt anybody. Well, go fucking touch one when you're in a space. You're gonna be singing a different song. And no, P doesn't work for that shit. You do not have to forgive. The Bible states that forgiveness is recommended. We'll use that for a modern term since, capitalism is becoming socialism to feed the capitalism. That's a whole nother segment I have for y'all. But to modernize the story a little bit, it's not demanded. It's not stated in the red letters, which, by the way, tidbit, food for thought. The red letters in the Bible or in the New Testament are supposed to be the verbatim words of Jesus Christ himself. Again, written by men who did not speak his language. So, these are interpretations of what Jesus was telling them, and it was probably geared by whatever emotion his actions and words inflicted on these people. So these are influenced words of Jesus by men and women who walked with him. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. My sister is one of those ones. I live my life by the word. Well, God really did never speak to people. We have Moses and the burning bush and the 10 Commandments, but it never said that God had a voice or that he manifested himself in a human form. No, never said that. So God is still an entity. He is all around us all the time if we want him to be. If Christianity is not your thing, then whatever belief you have, because I've gone to college for this shit, all religious beliefs have the same holidays. They just call them something different. They pray a little different. But ultimately, there is a higher power. You have to give offerings to this higher power. You celebrate this higher power on certain days. You fast for this higher power on certain days. And if you're lucky, your higher power will fill you with its spirit in a manifestative form. And you and only you will understand what that manifestation means. I'm going to let that sink in. Back on forgiveness. It doesn't say that you have to forgive thy neighbor for fucking thy wife. It says that when we go to heaven, because I believe this is hell, I'm going to wrap this up. Forgiveness is not mandated. And you shouldn't feel bad for not forgiving people. They should feel bad for fucking you over in any way that they did. My bully that I write about in the first book actually wanted to be my girlfriend and stuff, but you know, we've ran into each other and we have the same group of friends all from school our whole lives. She never reached out to me genuinely before the book or anywhere after and said, hey, I feel some type of way about the way I tormented your fucking life. I would like to meet up and discuss what I was going through or what was going through my mind or what drugs I was on. She's never done that. But the book comes out and all of a sudden she's all up in my DMs and wants to fall in love with me and sweep me off my feet and showing up to events that she's not even invited to. I'm cordial because I don't hold grudges. I'm grown. I wrote about it to help other kids understand that they're not alone. I wrote about it and I moved on. I'll never forget it and I'll never forgive her. And that's okay. Forgiveness is not mandated by anyone. So the whole moral of this point that I was trying to get across to my brother is you don't have to thrive to be perfect. I don't believe in a God that would create man in his image and create every person and child with a purpose is the same entity that would build a fiery pit of torturous hell. Read Dante's Inferno if you have not. We're living in Dante's Inferno. This is the greatest test of our lives. Life. What you do here doesn't specifically correlate with what's going to happen in the afterlife. Contrary to the Muslim belief, and I have Muslim friends and I'm not picking on them by any means. There's polygamists, they think that the more children they get, the closer to God that they are. The Bible never said that. It never said take a gazillion wives and have 50 kids. Fuck no, it didn't say that shit. But every religion takes what part of the Bible they want, they twist it so it fits their narrative. Now we're getting into the Baptists may as well be CNN, and the Lutherans, they can have MSNBC. The Methodists can have Fox News because they keep it interesting. And the Pentecostals, we're just all over the place. We pop up on any channel in any station, any city, in any state, any podcast, and any radio station because we're filled with the Spirit and we can just float around and do that. Come on, guys. These young people that think they have all the fucking answers and they get on my posts and they're like, oh, you're going to go to hell because you've never forgiven your mother. Well, fuck you and your mother's asshole. You've never met the bitch. You don't know what she's done to me. Obviously, you haven't read the book or listened to any of my podcasts. She's a fucking cunt in every sense of the word, and I'm not mad about that. I have a few questions for God when I get upstairs myself. Only God can judge me. No one else. Just like only God, whoever that is for you, can judge you. And for the record, Satan worshipers do not believe in Satan. Do some fucking research, please. I got so much satanic bullshit comments on the Marilyn Manson video. I was like, it's a good laugh when I'm having a few drinks at night at home, chilling. I go through that shit and I'm like, we are headed for Armageddon, and our youth are single-handedly sending us there. When did we become a culture of fucking bitches over subjects that y'all don't even know anything about? Don't come to me if you were born after 1994, with the exception of my amazing daughter who was born in 97. If you were born after 1994, you're just by proxy a fucking idiot. You have a watered down version of history, culture, how America came to be. You have whatever city and state you live in, you have their narrative that they want you to believe so that you grow up to vote the way they want you to vote. How is this not so fucking obvious? Because y'all have been living in the box or the bubble that your family and your church and your communities have put you in. So I am begging you, think outside the box. I can't be the only person who was never allowed to be a child, so I've never been able to be put in a box ever, and ironically I choose to live in one, but mine has cool wheels and goes fast and gets you all the shit that you need at the store. But you come up with these great comebacks that make abso-fucking-lutely no sense to somebody who's educated, gone to college, went to school before it started getting watered down and people had feelings and got canceled and all that dumb shit. I went to school in the 80s, so I'm not buying your bullshit. We can talk about religion. We actually really need to talk about religion because let's talk about, nobody wants to talk about the priest fucking the little boys. I have to ask the question, has anyone ever heard of a priest fucking a little girl? Like, why are they fucking the boys? Why is it always the choir boys? Not saying that there needs to be priests fucking any children, but you know what? That's the world we live in. There's also another world that we live in where the priests are getting rich. God did not say, go out and speak my word and take thy peasants' money. He didn't say that. Actually, tithing in the biblical ages was volunteering. But no, the preacher these days are wearing $5,000 Armani suits. They're showing up in their Maseratis and Bentleys, and they watch you get in your car. I have actually gone to my sister's church, and my mom's car wouldn't start, probably because she was fucking there. Anyways, surprised she didn't catch on fire. She was doing the devil's work for sure. But anyways, not one of the big people in the church came to help, but an old gangster out of prison who's straight, sober, out of that lifestyle, and comes to the church. He got off of his motorcycle and came back around to help my mother. Everybody else was off to go eat Red Lobster and Papa Seafood and do whatever rich church people do after church. They've already got your money. And then when I ask about it, they say, well, we got to pay the lease, we got rent, we got to pay for the fuel for the buses, we got to do this, we got to do that, and you have to be wearing a $10,000 Cartier tennis bracelet. How does that benefit me? It doesn't. It doesn't benefit you. It doesn't benefit anyone. When you go to a church where the whole pastor's family has something to do with the church and they all look nicer than you, turn around and go home. Just turn around and go home. There is nothing wrong with saying that you are spiritual. It doesn't mean that you don't have a religious belief. It just means that you don't believe in organized religion. I don't believe that I need to go to church every time the doors are open and sit down and listen to some man's interpretation of what God's word for me is. Because when God needs to speak to me, and trust me, I'm in a truck all alone by myself 24/7, I see all of his creations. I see all of his marvelous work. And I see the work that people are tearing down and the history that's being taken down. And it's so fucking disheartening that people of my generation and the generations before me are cowering down to a bunch of dorm room dumb fucks. Thank you, Michael Rappaport. Shout out. Fuck you. This is my fucking country, and I will talk about religion. I will talk about spirituality. I will talk about my hate for the Me Too movement. I will talk about bitches complaining about consensual and non-consensual sex. I will talk about whatever I want. But here is one thing that everybody needs to agree on. Forgiveness is not a real thing. Your brain will never truly forget an incident. You can move past and work on building trust and try to move forward, but there's a little porcupine inside of all of us that says, here comes that fucking bitch again. Oh, we not going through this again. We're just not gonna do it. And especially if a cunt isn't willing to fucking ask forgiveness, you don't even give me a fucking reason on why you treat me like shit, you definitely aren't earning my respect, my trust, and definitely not my forgiveness. I don't ask for forgiveness for anything unless I truly, truly hurt somebody. My children will be the first to tell you, I don't say I'm sorry. If I cut you like a knife and want to kill you with the death of 1,000 cuts with my words, you fucking earned it. I am the most nicest, down-to-earth person. But if you come at me with some millennial, murky water bullshit version of what you think you know, 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 18-year-olds, you don't know a fucking thing about politics or religion. Just saying. So shut the fuck up and read a book or two. Stop pretending that y'all are in charge, because you're not. And we gave y'all a voice. Unfortunately, this is the land of the free, so the same way you jerk-offs got to vote and we got that guy in office, I can come on here and say that if God was one of us, I think that he would be my homeboy. He is my homeboy. Him and Jesus both. They swap between the passenger seat and the bunk. They take care of me out here, as well as all of my oracle of angels that I have up there dancing and driving him crazy. God is with me everywhere. God is with me whether I'm doing a cleansing spell. God is with me whether I am helping my child doing something ritualistic so I can take something that somebody put on him off. God is with me when I am praying. God is with me when I am crying. He's with me when I am sleeping. He is with me when I am fucking. He is with us every bit of the way. And here's another tidbit for you. You're not gonna leave this earth a Puritan, a person of no sin. His own son didn't even get to do that. But because his son carried those burdens, everyone gets the golden ticket. So if God was one of us, I think he'd be a down-ass dude. And he would slap a lot of people and say, hey, you want to know what my words were? Ask me, motherfucker. Thank you for joining another amazing episode of Dysfunctionally Functional. I am your crazy, whacked out host, Teresa DeLeon. You can find my book at Barnes & Noble, Amazon too, but I'm anti-corporation, so whatever. The only way you can find the hardback copy is on Barnes & Noble. And this podcast will be available for live stream in about 30 minutes anywhere you download your podcast. And if you haven't hit the subscribe or like button, this is going to be the most controversial subscribe and like button that you will ever push in your life. But I guarantee you, I'm going to push your boundaries, and I'm going to do it on purpose because we've got to gain America back, man. We're losing it to a bunch of just really ignorant, ill-informed young people. I'll leave you with this. Our religion, our spirituality, and our government have become such murky waters. It doesn't matter if you put that murky water in a red Solo cup, in a piece of fine china glass, in a plastic cup, in a champagne flute. It doesn't matter if you put it in a baccarat. It doesn't fucking matter. When you look in the cup, it's still murky fucking water. Thank you for joining, and continue to find ways to take your dysfunctionalities and make them functional for your everyday life. Peace out, y'all.